Welcome back, everyone. I'm here today with Jesse Haynes. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Wonderful, wonderful. So we're here today to talk about your incredible win of the Moab 240.
Oh,
Um,
thank
can you kind of just start off giving me like a quick introduction into your running journey and how what brought you to the Moab 240?
How far back do you want me to go? I've been doing this for a while.
Maybe give us the highlights.
Okay. Well, let's just say I guess I could start by saying that I've been doing ultras now since 2011 and have done, I think maybe 16, 1700 mile races. This was my second 200 mile plus distance race. Um, so my journey probably when I started my first year of running ultras, it was obviously you start out small, but it was 50 Ks on my in my first year. Um, but I did 8 of them and finished the year off with a 50 mile. So I was like, whoa, um, kind of, you know, probably was a bit much, but my second year, I decided, you know what, I'll try to do something longer. I'll try to do 100 Ks this year. So that was second year, and I ended up getting in the last 100 K that I did was a spot for what the Western States had at that time was the Montreal Ultra Cup. Is that what it was called? I don't know. I've been in this so long, but anyway, I got a entry into the Western States, and so that was my first 100 mile race back in 2013 because I was able to finish the first race that I did was I was in the top 10, so I got a entry into the States the next year,
Yeah.
and the next year I was also top 10. The next year I ended up dropping out of the race. So it was my first DNF at a 100 mile distance the following year. But I was able to race my way in again. So it was pretty much a successive every single year since 2013. I had been in Western States until my final States appearance, which was in 2018 was the last time that I ran it and didn't make top 10. So I haven't been back to Western States, but I've had many other races that I've obviously had my eyes on. A couple of them, two of the ones were uh, hard rock. So
Mhm.
I've gotten two hard rock finishes with my finish this year. And so at so let's go to Moab now. What got me to want to do Moab was the first time that I did a 200 plus mile race was Bigfoot, and that was in 2019. And that year, Mike McKnight had won it, and I was running for Ultra, and he was the Ultra sponsored. He was in charge of sponsorship. So he just out of the blue, he's like, you could do Tahoe and Moab. I could let you get you into those, but I had too much going on, so I didn't agree to do those. So then the following year, I was able to get an entry into Moab, but it didn't come to fruition. I can't remember back what it was because actually I was in Moab 2020, in Moab 2021, in Moab 2022, entered at least, and I didn't actually get to run it until this year, um, due to a couple injury in 2022 kept me from doing it. 2021 I had some medical issues with urinary tract issues, and 2020 I can't remember what happened that year.
We've
I
all
didn't
sort
run
of blanked it, haven't
that
we?
right. I didn't run it. So this year I knew I was running it. But this year, even though I knew I was running it, my wife is also ultra runner, Kira Henniger. She has all the large trail races down in Southern California, and she had forgotten that I was signed up for Moab, and she got herself entered into Kodiak,
Right.
which on our way to Hard Rock this year when we were traveling, she was like, "You're not doing Moab this year, are you?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "It's the same weekend as Kodiak." I was like, "I didn't know that." So I had kind of a little bit of a conflict of interest because she helps me at every one of my big races. By big, I mean 100-mile or larger.
Mm,
And now I felt like this is an opportunity for me to give back to her.
mm.
But I was, in conflict. Do I help her? Do I do the race? I didn't know. I had a not I had not a great um hard rock, and I was kind of a little bit under the not under the weather, but what would you say? I was kind of a little bit distraught from it because I was doing great, and then I ended up not in not having a finish that I would have wanted. So I was like, oh, maybe I will just help her. But then I was like, all right, so I've been registered for this race for 4 years in a row, and I'm not getting any younger. I don't know if I'll ever sign up for it again. So I was like, I'm just gonna do it. And I decided maybe a month and a half before the race that I was gonna actually do it.
Wow.
Well, that was the journey. I hope I was short enough.
No, no, that was great. That was great. So was your kind of that month turnaround, do you feel like your previous kind of what you'd done previously, you'd done the hard rock, which you say you kind of knocked your confidence a little bit, but do you think you kind of took elements of that and put it into your 240 because you had such a quick turnaround?
You mean elements meaning for training
Yeah.
purposes or like mental? Yeah,
Kind of a bit of, maybe a bit of both, because you mentioned that there was maybe aspects of your hard rock performance that you weren't kind of happy with. Did you take that and put it into Moab?
yeah, eventually I did. At the start of it, obviously I decided to do it, and I talked to my buddy Jeff Browning about it before I actually. Well, I decided I was going to do it, and I talked to him, and I was like, I can't go into a 240-mile race without having a reason to do it. So
Mm,
you have to ask yourself, why am I doing this? So I actually had to ask myself why. Usually I sign up for a race and there's no real reason for me to have to ask that question. But yeah, after Hard Rock and my performance there, not that it was that bad, I just wasn't something that I was um, proud of, or I knew I could have done better had the situation gone differently. But yeah, I had to figure out my why I was going to do the race. um, let's go back to fitness. I typically, obviously, if you're running 100-mile race, you're going to have good fitness. So
mm,
I didn't really worry about the fact that I wasn't fit for Moab. I did have to prioritize what I was going to do for my training, being that now I'm doing 240. And I didn't really, after Hard Rock, I didn't really get back on the training cycle really quick. I just, kind of just maintained what I had going on. So to go back to answering the question of, I had to ask myself why I was doing the race.
mm.
In all reality, it was just to experience what the surroundings of Moab, and to cover the course from start to finish. The only thing that I had pushing me, or my focus in the race, was just going out for a enjoyable going that distance, but go out for an enjoyable run and experience the whole experience as a whole.
Yeah.
That was going to be my why.
Yeah.
It wasn't really to race. It was just to go out and enjoy the scenery and the experience.
So tell me a bit about your experience then. Did you enjoy
There were
it?
good parts and there were really low parts.
Yeah.
um, I did really enjoy well, let me start off by saying I hate every long distance race I do. I cannot stand packing drop bags. This race was going to be a lot of drop bags because I didn't have a crew. So I had to pack 10 drop bags, and I put way too much stuff in my drop bags. So I was overpacking, thinking about it. I overanalyzed everything. So the experience started with, let's say, packing drop bags, which is not a good experience for me ever. But I got to the start line at least with the bags packed. But so from the start of the race and working my way in, I knew I was just going to go easy, be calm, patient, and just enjoy the run. And I got hooked up with he ended up dropping, so but he was second place for most of the race. Ended up running with Taylor Morris for a group a long while during the race. We kind of separated and a little bit after, like, I would say mile 35, 40, somewhere in there. And then I was pretty much in the lead and on my own. But I enjoy that too. So I don't really need to have companionship to enjoy the run. But I would have to say that everything was going smooth and good. I had planned on trying to do a sleep before we started climbing up the Shea Mountain climb. So that's right around 100 mile 100, and it's somewhere close to 108, I think, because that's where my watch died. Is that was before the climb or during the climb. But I was having a great time. Everything was going good. I never did get the sleep in that I wanted. I ended up trying to take a nap at mile, I would say somewhere around 85, 90. It only ended up being, I set my watch for 5 minutes, and I ended up, not my watch, my phone. I ended up not even sleeping for 5 minutes. It took me like a minute to fall asleep. And then I know I woke up before the alarm went off. So it was like 3 minutes,
Mm.
which was definitely not enough. Um, but that's where the experience started to get a little rough, is climbing up Shea Mountain without sleep. And it was in the afternoon. So trying to get sleep going up that mountain was nearly impossible because it's daylight. Um, so I started to lose some energy. It was also the day that the solar eclipse was happening.
Right.
And right around 10 or 11, something like that, everything got really like late afternoon or early evening. And my mind was already starting to play tricks, not tricks on me, but I was already mentally like tired, I
Yeah.
guess. And it's just kind of initiated its get coming to be nighttime.
Yeah.
The sun came back out and everything was fine. But when I was climbing the Shea Mountain climb, it was super steep. My energy was low because I was tired. And I ended up climbing up Shea Mountain climb. There's a descent, and then you climb up to the aid station on a fire road. And I remember getting to the aid station and being kind of down on myself. I was like, man, it took me a long time to get to here. I was like, I said, it took me forever. And I was like, what time is it? And they're like, it's 2:15. I was like, wait, it's 2:15. And I looked at my map, I had all the aid stations like listed, and I had the temperature for the aid station, at what time I was going to hit it. And
Yeah.
I was like, 2:15. I looked at my map on my cheat sheet, and that my arrival time there was supposed to be 2:15. I was like, I
Wow.
can't believe that I hit, and I was hitting all my aid station times pretty close to the minute that I was supposed to.
Yeah.
And I set kind of loose times. I'm gonna try to move to somewhere where there's more light.
Okay.
Um, all right. So yeah, I had my little cheat sheet that I had all my aid station. I don't know if you could see that or not,
Yeah, yeah.
but I had all my distances and my times written down with the weather, what it was supposed to be for that time period in that area. And so I hit my aid station time like right on the money, and I was like, wow, I can't believe that I hit it. So it kind of gave me a jolt.
Yeah.
But I was starting to have fluid in my lungs, like pulmonary edema type
Wow.
situation. So, and I thought my foot was like thought I had a toenail that was like totally ripped off. And the medic was there, and he took my shoe, or I took my shoe off, and he looked at it. He's like, "There's nothing wrong with your toe." I'm like, "What?" Couldn't believe it. Like, but I can tape it up if you want. I was like, sure. I said, I'm gonna also take a nap. So that was the first time that I laid down to take a nap, and we set the time for 10 minutes, and I woke up before that came off. But I I left Shea Mountain to climb up the next climb, which was a new portion of the race, as an additional 4,000 vertical feet, and an extra 13 miles added to the race. So that was the point that I left there. But obviously, I had some issues going on with my lungs, and it took me forever to get up that climb and back down because of the high point of the race up to that point. I think we went up to 10 something.
Wow.
Um, so it was at that point that I was like, I was starting to really feel it because the 200-mile distance is a little bit different because you're going so much. You want your pace to be slower, so the change in your muscles and the pain that comes on, it also comes on slower. Uh,
Mm.
that's the way I feel anyway. Like it takes it a little bit longer and it comes on slower, so it's not like all of a sudden you're like, oh man, my legs are gone. So it took a while for that to happen. And let me know if I'm getting into too many details.
No, I love it. I love it. So tell me a bit
um,
about that sleep deprivation, kind of d- how were you really suffering with that? Was your lungs a part of that, or was that a pre-existing injury or
it, it could have been, but I talked to Ben Light, who's done a lot of these. He knows quite a bit about the 200-mile distance and super long stuff. And apparently, pulmonary edema happens because um, your sinuses get dry.
right?
And so, because your sinuses get dry, your body has the effect where it's going to start to lubricate everything. So it over lubricates, and then it gets into your lungs and that sort of thing. Just to put it like a blanket system on it. And I was also, as I was thinking back, the whole first night and pretty much most of the run, except for when I was talking to Taylor, I was doing nose breathing
Right.
because I've listened to some podcasts, mainly like Andrew Huberman's podcasts that talk about breathing, and the best way to do breathing is through the nose because it warms the air and it filters things out and it keeps your your respiratory system in check more, I guess you could say. So I was doing that, so maybe that also initiated some of the irritation because it was
Yeah.
also really cold out.
Yeah.
When it hit nighttime, it got to be cold enough where you needed more than just a light layer on. You needed to put on a couple layers to
Mm.
stay warm. Um, but yeah, the climb up to it's the climb they call. You're going to aid station called Monticello Lake. I don't actually know the peak that we climbed up to, but when it got to the high point, I started to head back down, and it was actually really bad. Like every step was labored, um, just because I wasn't getting the oxygen that I needed. For the most part, that's what the cause was, and my heart was racing because you start moving and you don't have oxygen, so your heart's trying to put more oxygen to your muscles. So it's just a whole you know effect that happens. So I was actually really concerned with it because it did happen to me at Hard Rock as well, the pulmonary edema type feeling. It took me out for a good 4 hours. I had to stay at an aid station until I got my oxygen levels back up. So because this started to happen and my heart was racing, I was like, "There's no reason to die doing this race." And I seriously thought I was in so much trouble that I was like, "I don't need my heart exploding." So I tried to contact. So I had one person set up to crew me. I hadn't physically met him yet, but we talked on the phone. I mean, I guess I met him, but it was at one of my wife's races. Um, but I didn't really, correlate. We never really had a conversation that was to the point where we were like, I know you, you know me type thing. But I had him set up to pace me, and he was waiting for me at mile 170 at road 46 because that's what we decided where he was going to pace from. And I was like, man, I need him to come. I'm so late. I was like 4 hours later than I was supposed to be. So I was like, I turned the data on my phone and I tried to text him. I'm like, you should come to Monticello Lake, which is where I was headed down to. And in my mind, I was like, yeah, come to Monticello Lake and we're going to assess this. And I think I might have to drop. That's what my mind was going with.
Wow.
So he never responded. I got down to Monticello Lake and at that point, I was like, I think maybe I just need to eat some food and take a nap because he's not here. I at least have to get down to the next aid station, which was Dry Valley. And I think it was an 18-mile stretch, 17-mile stretch, something like that. So I came into Monticello Lake, told them that I needed something to eat. I was like, I'm going to take a nap here. At that point, Taylor caught back up to me.
Right.
Uh, he and I actually, he was just coming into Shea Mountain
Right.
when I was leaving.
Yeah.
So we made an exchange and said, hey, good job. See you
You
later.
were always just kind of like edging each other
We
up.
were, but I hadn't seen him until Shea Mountain.
Right.
It was like mile 40 and then mile 110 I saw him again. Like, hey, how you doing? So kind of like old friends. um, but I did the Monticello Lake climb, went down to the aid station. As I'm in the aid station, he comes in and I'm just about ready to take my nap. I get up from my nap after I think I asked them for 30 minutes, but I don't think I slept that long because it took me a while to fall asleep. So he comes in and I take my nap. As I get up to get ready to go, I said, "Is Taylor's crew still here?" Because in my mind, I had this whole plan. Is Taylor's crew still here? And they're like, "Yeah, they're right there." So I went and asked them. I was like, "So where are you guys going next?" And they're like, "Yeah, we're going to Dry Valley, but only his pacer is going to Dry Valley." And I was like, "Okay, where's his pacer?" He came over. I was like, "Okay, so you're going to Dry Valley. Oh, they're dropping the pacer off." I was like, "Do you think you can stay there till Taylor gets there?" Because I figured Taylor was going to leave and I was going to be way behind him. Do you think you can stay there until I get there and then you can take me and my pacer to my car in
Oh,
Moab? Yeah, I was ready to drop. And
wow.
he said, sure, I'll stay. So Taylor apparently left the aid station like 3 minutes before me. And they're like, yeah, your Taylor left already. So I was like, okay. So I took off. And now it's really cold. It's really cold. I had all my clothing on because I didn't have anything extra packed because I was supposed to be there 4 hours earlier. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be, let me just look at my cheat sheet. It was, I was supposed to leave Monticello Lake at 5:15 p.m. and I left somewhere around 8 or 9 p.m. So I was really late. So it's nighttime and it's cold. So I did the whole 18 mile and they said it's pretty much a descent. On that descent, if it was a descent, there was a lot of climbing too, because it was just rollers. But I couldn't run downhill. I couldn't run uphill. I was just wasted. My legs were just gone. I think it was from the lack of oxygen. And on my way down, because the pulmonary edema was set in, I was coughing up the the fluid, the nasty phlegm that is in the lungs
Mm.
the whole way down. And I finally got down to Dry Valley, still coughing up stuff. And I was trying to chase his headlamp. I couldn't see his headlamp, and I ran into Dry Valley. And I'm thinking to myself, Taylor got there so long ago. His pacer's gonna leave. So ran the last 3 miles to get to Dry Valley, pretty much as hard as I could,
Wow.
as far as my legs would take me, just to get there before his pacer left. So I got there and I came into the aid station all hot and I'm like, is Taylor still here? Is Taylor still here? And they're like, who? They're like, you're first. I was like, wait, what? He left before me. I was like, oh no, he went the wrong way because there were a lot of markings that were not up for one reason or another.
Mm.
Cows or course vandalism or it didn't get marked. I don't know. There was just a lot of times had to be on my phone to check the route to make sure that I was going still on course. And there was one time that I had gone off. I went probably I'd like to say it was a quarter mile. I don't think it was quite that, maybe half of that. But I had to come back and there was no marking there, but it was a trail marker. So I was like, that's where I think Taylor went off. So the whole time I'm in the aid station tent going, I know I'm in first place, but I think I really need to drop. Um, but they got me food. They put me in the tent that they had that was warm. I was like, all right, I'm just gonna eat some more food. I'm gonna take another half-hour nap and I'll just have to go because I have no ride to get to my pacer. It's mile 170, so I'm at like 143, something like that. So I ate. Taylor pops his head in the tent. He's like, "Hey, they said you were looking for me." I was like, "Yeah. Did you go off course or what?" He's like, "No, I didn't go off course." And he told me what had happened was he probably went to the bathroom after he had left. So he was never in front of me,
Wow. So
chasing no headlamps.
you were you were chasing ghost headlamps.
I was chasing a ghost. And not really chasing because it was like I was just out there for the run. But at that point, I was so oxygen deprived that I was like, oh my God, I can't run uphill. I can't run downhill. My race is done. So I ended up taking a nap. He left. I ended up taking another 30-minute nap. I woke up, had some warm stuff, and had the now what everybody's considers the most boring part of the course, which it's pretty boring because it's just a flat road. Flat road. I mean, very little climbing, if any. But it's the middle of the night for me, and I remember leaving there, trying to run. I was looking at his footsteps in the sand, seeing if he was running, to see if my pace was longer. That's what I had to go off of. And I kept seeing lights way up ahead of me, and I'm thinking, "Oh, that's the aid station." And I'd get there, and it was just a car. I ended up taking another nap in between Dry Valley, and it's just a dirt nap. And I told myself, you know what? I'm just going to lay down in the dirt. I'm not going to set an alarm. I'm just going to sleep until I feel like I'm going to get up. I ended up I ended up sleeping, but I ended up waking up with like sore shoulder, sore hip because there's no padding. So I didn't really look at my time to see how long I slept. I didn't stop a timer. I don't think it was more than 5 minutes, but then kind of had an epiphany once I woke up and I'm running, run, kind of hike, feel sorry for yourself, start running again. And then where's this aid station? I kept turning a corner and looking at my map. I'm like, okay, it's after the corner, you run, and then there's a curve. So I'm running and I find the curve. I'm like, where's this aid station? And I was so upset with the fact that I couldn't get to this aid station fast enough. And I just thought to myself, you know what? I was like, why do I want this? Like, I want to get to the aid station now. Like, I just left the other one. Granted, it was like 2 hours ago, but I just left the other one, and here I am trying to get to the next aid station, upset with the fact that it's not coming, not coming, not coming. We live in a world of instant gratification. I'm like, wait a minute. So what's the whole reason for you to be out here? To cover the course, to do the run. Instead of instant gratification, how about you just start concentrating on delayed gratification? How about that, Jesse? And so I use that as my impetus to get to the next aid station, which I got to, and I said, "How long ago did Taylor leave?" And they're like, "Taylor, the guy he's sleeping over there." I was like, "Oh, perfect." So got to that aid station. That was probably my quickest aid station. I just got my stuff together, ate something, and just was ready to go and on my way. But at that aid station, things kind of changed a little bit as well because all of a sudden, third place, who I had seen at, let's back up to Monticello Lake. I saw him come in and I heard him say that he's going to take a long nap. I only knew him by name because his crew was always saying Aaron's coming pretty soon. So I knew him as Aaron. So he got to the aid station where Taylor was sleeping, and I just arrived to, which was now Needles, mile 157. I'm looking at my cheat sheet. And he came in and he was like, yeah, he's like, how far ahead are first and second? And I was like, well, you're looking at second. I'm right here. And he was talking to the aid station people, and then they're like, um, he said something like, yeah, the top 10 people never sleep, and I slept, and I'm catching everybody. He's like, I'm just going out hunting now. And I'm like, okay, all right, you're going hunting. All right, cool. Well, I'm number two. I'm gonna leave right now, and we'll see what happens. um, So Taylor and his pacer had left like 2 to 5 minutes before me, and I started running out of the aid station, and he kind of lit a fire in me because he's like, I'm going hunting and I'm chasing down second and first place. And I'm like, okay. So I caught up to Taylor within maybe a half hour, something like that, maybe 2-3 miles down the road. And he and his pacer and myself ran together for a bit, and I caught him because he slowed down. He was hiking, and I'm like, what's going on? He's like, hey, Jesse, I just wanted to say that last year I ended up dropping out of this race because my Achilles tendon just went. And he's like, and I'm starting to feel it. It was on this stretch the last time that I was starting to feel it. And he's like, I'm just going to hike it out on this flat stuff just because I don't want it to happen again. And I was like, okay. I was like, and he's like, what you say we just like, you know, not really race this, just, stick together. I was like, well, I said, I'm not really racing. I said, I'm out here to do a run. It's going to end up being a race, but I'm just out here running. So I'm going to keep going at the pace that it feels comfortable to me because my Achilles tendon has been hurting since I left Dry Valley, which was 20 something miles ago. And my knee hurts and my adductors hurt and my quads, not my quads, my hip flexors hurt and my hamstrings hurt. So I'm just going to keep going at the clip that I need. And I ended up like stopping and rotating my knee in place. And I probably went to relieve myself. And he finally ended up catching up to me. And he's like, I was thinking what you said, that this hurts and that hurts and this hurts. And um, all I had was the bad Achilles that was starting. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to stick with him. We ended up running the whole next section together, which was great. Maybe 10 miles worth of running side by side. So then we got to the aid station now that my pacer was set up to pace me from. Granted, I was supposed to be there at 1:55 in the morning. We were supposed to start at 2 in the morning. And that's the reason I wanted a pacer, was because it was the middle of the night. And I heard this section coming up, this 30-mile section was overgrown and rough and hard to find the trail, and things like that. Plus I was like, it's 2 a.m. in the morning. It's really going to be tiring. I want to have somebody on navigation just to make sure that I'm not having to pull my phone out, because I remember that at Bigfoot, that there was many times that I just out of the blue be like, wait, when was the last time I saw a ribbon? Oh, pull up the phone, look at the course. Where's the course? Am I on course? Yep, I'm on course. And then you're so sleep deprived that the next moment could have been 5 minutes later. You sit there and go, I wonder when was the last time I looked at my phone? When was the last ribbon? So potentially you could be like looking at your phone every 2 minutes because you forgot that you looked at it. So I didn't want that to happen. But I ended up getting there at 10 o'clock in the morning. And my Achilles tendon on my left foot, my left leg or left foot was so sore. I thought I had to drop again because I could barely run. I was like, now we got this big climb. I'm like, I can't do another, whatever it is, thinking to myself, I can't do another 70 miles of this with this Achilles tendon like this. Wouldn't you know, there just so happened to be somebody there that has, his girlfriend was a PT and he knew how to put K-tape on.
Wow.
I was like, I've got some. I was like,
Yeah.
if you know how to tape it, he's like, oh no, I got some. So he taped up my Achilles tendon, which even if it was like just tape on there and it wasn't doing anything, it still felt like it was doing something in your mind,
No
right?
effect, placebo
Well,
effect.
yeah. So he put it on there. I was like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna take this time I'm gonna sleep 40 minutes. So um, my pacer had me set up in one of the ham radios trailers because it was nice and quiet, and he ended up sleeping in there the night before. So I was in there. I said, why don't you set the alarm for 45 minutes just so that I have 5 minutes to fall asleep? So we did that, and I woke up and casually just went to the aid station to get my stuff together. Aaron had finally come in and he was there. I don't remember if he slept or not, but Taylor left that aid station before me. like 15 minutes before me. Aaron was there, and whatever he did, I don't know. He must have slept because he came in pretty close to us when we came in at 10:30. Um, so he must have slept a little bit as well. But he left the aid station right before me. I picked my pacer up, Kevin, and we took off from there. And wouldn't you know it, it felt like a brand new day.
Wow.
Like I was didn't feel tired. My Achilles tendon didn't really hurt that much. I mean, it did, but I was able to get going. And we chatted and talked. And by the time we got to the next aid station, we could see Taylor just up ahead of us. Aaron had fallen off the pace just a little bit, so he was a little bit behind us. And came into the aid station. Taylor was there with his pacer. We chatted it up a bit. He had a burger, had some drinks, got our stuff together. He left like 2 minutes before me. Aaron came in right behind us. So it was kind of fun. We had like this 3-person
Yeah.
change going on for like, I guess, 10 hours, 15 hours, something like that. So we left that aid station heading up to Geyser Pass, which is, we were at the Pole Canyon aid station, 1 mile 185. Taylor took off maybe 2 minutes ahead of us, not even. And Aaron had showed up at the aid station. And it was nearly 15, 20 minutes, maybe a half hour before my pacer and I caught up to Taylor and his pacer. And we were just chit chatting and we went right by Taylor, not like see you later type thing. It was just like chit chatting, going up. And this was the high point of the course that we were climbing up to now was the Geyser Pass aid station. And it was a pretty good section. It was a 21 mile section.
Mm.
And, the time passed really quick because I had somebody with me and he was great with navigation, never had to look at the phone once. There was a little point in time where he's like, yeah, we're pretty close to the aid station. And like an hour and a half later, we're still pretty close to the aid station. I was like, wait, let me look. I opened up my phone. I was like, wait a minute, we're going the wrong way.
Oh.
We're going like the opposite direction. He's like, no, we're not. But I was obviously tired.
Yeah.
And so this is the kind of the point where we got up to when we got up to Geyser Pass is where everything kind of turned around from this is just a casual run to not casual. It was never casual. Let me back up. It was always, I always put myself under duress. It's not like I was taking it easy out there, but I was trying to enjoy the run.
Mm.
But we come into the Geyser Pass aid station area, and the first person that comes up to us is Jeff Browning. And I was like, Jeff, what are you doing here? Because we're pretty good friends. And he's like, I'm here to help you. I'm here to crew you. I was like, oh, awesome. I was like, you got my drop bag? Yep, got it all. It's over here by the tailgate. He had hot coffee. We discussed how I was feeling. I was like, yeah, I'm feeling good, except for my Achilles is just really sore. And as I sat, he like had this chair that was I think he called it like a zero gravity chair or something like that. I sat in it and it kicked me back. It was
Yeah.
like, whoa, this is awesome. And him and his wife were giving me food, asking me what I needed. So I was eating something. I was like, I want to eat and I want to take a little nap. He's like, how long do you want? I said, like 15, 20 minutes. And as we're talking, in comes Jeff uh, Pelletier. I don't
Mm.
know how to say his name exactly. And Jeff Browning says, there's second place. I was like, second? Oh, he goes, there's Jeff, second place. I was like, Jeff, second place? I was like, there's no Jeff, it's Taylor. He's like, oh, no, no, no. Jeff passed Taylor. Jeff's moving up the field fast. I was like, what? Okay. So I was like, oh, all right. So yeah, let's only do 15-minute nap. He's like, why is this over there? I heard him. He's going to take a long nap here. I was like, yeah, still. I was like, 15, 20 minutes. That's all I need. So I slept. They woke me up. I think I was up before they even, I heard them. Oh, I heard them whispering. Like they were like, I was like, I can hear you guys. I'm up. But as I'm in that chair, my Achilles tendon was on a crossbar on the chair, and when I fell asleep, I didn't know it. So when I came to, and I woke up and I moved my foot, I was in so much pain. I was like almost crying. I was like, "Oh my God, I can't do this. I can't do this. It hurts so much." Um, and I just woke up. Jeff got in my ear and he's like, "Okay, here's the next section. You just have to go up here. You're gonna come to a you're gonna come to a trail up at the top. You're gonna run down to a lake. You're gonna turn right. You're gonna go across a gravel road. You're gonna hit a blacktop road. You're gonna go left. You're gonna hit a pretty buffed out trail." I was like, "How do you remember all this?" He did the race the year before, but still, how do
Yeah.
you remember all this? He's like, "Oh, it's like a picture in my head. I remember it." I'm like, "Okay." So
Meanwhile, you're just like trying to get main station to main
I'm like,
station.
right. He's like, just hike this next section. Just hike the whole thing up. When you get to the top, it's pretty good. You can start to run down. Just hike this. Just go easy. Like, just do a comfortable pace. He's gonna take a nap. If you just stay consistent, you'll stay ahead of him. I'm like, okay. So I take off out of there. I didn't have poles. So I'm wait, did I? No. Did I take poles? No, I didn't have poles. Anyway, I'm hiking up and it had snowed 3 days previous. So now I'm on icy road. So I'm like concentrating on my footsteps, and I'm going from hiking to like stopped, and just like I woke up. I'm like, whoa, where am I? I literally was falling asleep while I was hiking, and I
Wow.
didn't realize even where I was. I knew I had to go and continue up the road. I just didn't realize that I had fallen asleep or kind of where I was when I woke up. And that happened probably 3 or 4 times before I got to the top of this climb, which I heard was 2.5, 3 miles.
Wow.
So I got to the top of the climb, and now it's downhill on single track. And I also remember going down this single track, thinking to myself as my headlamp's hitting all the rocks and the trees, I'm like, why are we running on this trail without taking the tools we need to build the trail? We need to bring rocks in here and we need to bring tools with us to do this trail. I have no idea why we're just running through the trail without doing the work. That's where my mind was. And so then I hit all the spots that Jeff was talking about, this lake with this asphalt, and then I kind of got to this spot where there's a road and it's pretty windy, and I'm like, all right, I'm on that road that he was talking about. It's really smooth running. All right, I'm just gonna run down this whole thing. So I ran down it, and I remember looking back up the hill, and I could see headlamps back there, but I couldn't tell how far away they were or where in relation to me they were, but I just knew there were headlamps back there. So I kind of had this feeling like, yeah, he's coming, they're coming, whoever it is coming. Maybe I slept too long standing in place, but I got down to this blacktop road and I could see a headlamp not too far back there. And I was like, shoot, that's got to be him. He's coming. So I shut my headlamp off because now I'm on a wide road, and I just put in this like a good turn of speed. I would like to say it was a 6 minute mile, but I doubt it.
Wow.
Probably like
Say
12.
that. You can say that. You were the only one there, so
Yeah, it
we
was a
can't
6 minute. Yeah, I
we
was looking at my watch that I didn't have. So I put in a good turn and then turned my lamp back on. And every time I would look back, I would obviously turn the lamp off so that he couldn't see me looking back, but then turn it back on to run forward. And I'm on this long winding road, and I looked at my map. I pulled my map up, and I remember when I hit the blacktop road that I was like, he's right behind me. I got to put in this turn of speed. I also, when I did that, dumped all my water out because I knew how much weight the water was. Still had my pack. So I still
Yeah.
had a liter and a half in my pack, but I dumped out all my bottles of water, which was an extra liter and a half.
Wow.
So yeah, my mind was gone. So I did this turn, and then I looked at my map after I got done with this turn of speed, which was only like probably a mile. Um, and I looked at the distance, and I was like, man, that's got to be like 10 miles still. I'm like, but shoot, I gotta run 10 miles. So I just put in focus on running the 10 miles. And this is where they say you hallucinate.
Mm.
I wasn't really hallucinating, but I was seeing things. Every bush on the side of the road or tree was a different piece of machinery. Might have come, I'm an equipment operator. I mean, I'm in the trade of equipment operating heavy equipment. But it wasn't just heavy equipment. It wasn't like just a bulldozer. It was like a horse and buggy. It was like a lawnmower. It was it was a car. It was different things that I was seeing. And then I'd get closer and I'd be like, oh, that's not a car, it's a tree. So it was happening. And I remember running, and then all of a sudden hike.
Mm.
And then I would like come to, not like I fell asleep, but I would just come to being like, you gotta go. And I remember asking myself, um, I kind of said this a couple times out loud. I'm on this flat road. I should be running, but you're not. What would Jeff do right now? Because Jeff's pretty badass racer. And I'm like, what would Jeff do? He'd be running. So I would just start running again. And every single time I was start wanting to come to a slow down, nope, start running again. And then I was so upset. I remember because 10 miles on a flat road, let's just say I was doing 10-minute miles. That's probably pretty fast.
Mm.
10 miles, that's quite a while.
Mm.
I don't want to do the math right now because every time I try to do math, it's considered bad math. But it took a while to get to that aid station. And I kept remembering telling myself, I was like, why does the race organizers keep moving the aid station? Like I kept feeling like I should have been there. And I was like, oh, the other racers are going around me and they're already to the aid station. They're taking a different route. But I eventually got to the aid station, the last aid station, Porcupine Rim. We have 18 miles left. I come into the aid station. It's now daylight. And I asked the volunteers, I was like, how far back is second place? And I had different answers. One person said he's like 3 miles back. The other person said like, oh, like an hour behind you. And so I was like, all right. So I ate a pancake. And then somebody else came up and said, yeah, he's like a mile back. I'm like, a
Oh.
mile. So I just got rid of all the food that I had. I mean, that I was eating, just tossed it, threw my pack on, threw my bottles on, took off. And they said you have a mile and a half and then you hit the trail. So a mile and a half of road and then you hit the trail on the right hand side. So I ran pretty good clip to get to that trail. And then I was like, you know what? I've only got 18 miles left. I was like, my phone, because I had it in airplane mode to keep the trail
Mm.
maps going. I was like, I'm not going to burn up all my battery in this 18 miles. So I turned the data on and went to the website for live tracking. And I was like, if I get to this trail and he's still at the aid station, I'm probably sitting pretty good. Well, I pulled it up. I was on the trail. He had left the aid station and I just hit the trail. I was like, shoot, he's a mile and a half back there. I gotta go. So from that point on, it was pretty much tempo running the entire last 18 miles, or at this point, it was like 16 and a half. But all the climbs, I was just like hiking like mad. The descents, I was trying to jump down them because it was kind of technical, also kind of rock falls.
Mm.
Trying to run, but my Achilles on my left didn't really bug me that much. Now my right one started to hurt. So now my right one was hurting more than my left one. And that's what I was focused on. I was like, ow, every time I would land, I was like, ow, it hurt. So I checked the tracker probably 5 or 6 times to
Mm.
see if he was closing the gap, but it's so hard to see. Like you have to zoom in and concentrate on where he is and when the last ping was. I was like, okay, he's still back there. And I would look back, couldn't see him. So I just kept up my pace, thinking to myself, if I just maintain this pace, if he catches me, I still have a little bit of energy left to stick with him or sprint for the finish. So I kept my pace going and remember turning the corner to go down the descent right next to the canyon. There's down to the river. And I remember turning the corner and looking up ahead and seeing that there was no way to cross the river. Like there was no cars, there was no bridge. And I'm
Mm.
like, well, I know there's a bridge going into town. So I have this whole river section I still have to do. I was like, that's quite a ways. I started thinking, I'm like, whatever, you're in this, you're doing it. You just keep up the pace you're going. And then there's a particular spot on the course in this last 3 to 4 miles where it's kind of shaped like an hourglass. You come around a corner, you have to do kind of come back and loop back and then drop into a little gully and then come back up and it kind of wraps back around. So if you kind of like an hourglass shape. Well, guess where I first saw, I actually had physical eye contact with Jeff, right where the two trails come close together. So right,
Wow.
so it's only like maybe 500 feet that he
Yeah.
had to go around this hourglass to come back to where I was. And he looks and I look over at him, he goes, Jesse? And I'm like, yep. And I just from that point on, full gas. Like
Yeah.
there was nothing hurt. It
Yeah.
was pretty much a 3 mile sprint for me from that point on. And I hit the bike path that comes, so now it's all asphalt that runs along the river, along the road. And I remember as soon as I hit that path, Jeff Browning was actually driving his truck the opposite way. And he yells out the window, he's like, you got this. And he's like, he's 3/10 of a mile back behind you. I was like, 3/10 of a mile? There's no way he's 3/10 of a mile. It's a lot less than that.
Mm.
But I didn't care. I just had never looked back, just pinned it as hard as I could go for that 3 miles and never looked back until I turned the corner to come up into the race venue underneath the bridge, underneath the road. And at that point, well, there was one guy on a bike he biked the opposite direction and he turned around and came back to me and he's like, there's nobody back there. He had a dog with him that was a little bit, anyway, he rode with me for a little bit. He's like, yeah, there's no one back there. I'm like, I don't believe you. I'm not stopping. Like I was, I couldn't believe it was going to finish in a sprint finish, but so it ended up being, I guess he ended up being like a half mile back, and I was finally able to let off like maybe 800 feet from the finish line, and Jeff's like, yeah, because Jeff showed up there. He's like, yeah, you got it, you got it. I'm like, you sure? Are you sure? I remember crossing the finish line, and somebody made mention of the fact that I called it out. I'm like, why did he have to try to win? And then I started thinking about it. I was like, I would have done the same thing
Mm.
if I would have come up on something. I'm not gonna like just give somebody a win. So I'm actually kind of pleased that it ended the way that it ended because it it really made the end of the journey special.
Mm. It reminds me of all I'm imagining is like the Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner, you know, how they're just kind of like racing each other.
Yeah.
But that in my head when you were describing that, then I was like, oh my God, that's all I'm imagining.
And I didn't actually get a chance to talk to him too much. I mean, we talked at the end of the finish line for a bit.
Mm.
I don't remember the conversation too much because I was sleep deprived. Um, and we kind of parted our ways. And he thought he was gonna, we would show back up at some point in time, like the next day or something. But I never really got a chance to talk to him about, his whole experience, about what was going on, in his head, and obviously what was going on in my head. I'm clear on, kind of, except for the sleep. Um, uh, but as far as it kind of switched from a run into a race for me,
Mm.
sort of when I saw him at Geyser Pass, but more so with the last 18 miles to go.
Wow.
That's when it kind of turned into race mode for me.
Wow. So what's your recovery been like then? How
So
have you felt?
I feel really good right now. I mean, my Achilles tendons are still a little bit of little sore in the belly of the Achilles, not the attachment spots, which is what Hollis is the guy's name that fixed me up at Road 46. He said if it doesn't hurt at the attachment spots, you're fine. If it's just in the belly, it's gonna hurt, but you're not at risk of like damaging something,
Right.
and that helped me make a decision to keep going. Um, but that's all that really hurts right now. I don't think that I ran hard enough the whole race for the rest of my body to have gone through a super rigorous um, like muscular
Mm,
breakdown.
mm,
But directly after the race, like all the fluid that was in my body, all obviously pooled down to my lower legs. From the knees down, I was swollen for 4 days. But it didn't help that I drove back the next day. I got in a car. Well, so I was there. I finished Monday morning. I was there all the way through Monday. Tuesday morning, I left to drive home.
right.
And my lovely wife, bless her, decided she flew to St. George to drive the rest of the way because she was worried that I was going to fall asleep. So
Oh.
I drove from Moab to St. George, which was like 2.5, 3 hours, and then she drove the rest of the way. And I tried to have my feet up on the dash, but it didn't really work too well. But I didn't end up working the next day, even though that's what was my plan, was to get home Tuesday night, go to work Wednesday. I didn't end up working Wednesday. I was able to take the day off,
Mm.
but I went to work Thursday and Friday, and it was painful. Like my feet were double the size that they were. I never had this happen before, but I was like in the middle of the night, just drenched with sweat.
Mm,
Um, and so I didn't really do anything very active for that. I think Sunday I jumped in a pool. I know it was Sunday that I jumped in a pool. I just can't remember if it was directly after. Yeah, I think it was. It was that like pretty much 1 week after the race. I finally got into the pool and did some water jogging to move, and that's when the swelling started to go down pretty good. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, the following, so Wednesday after the race day, I was finally able to like walk around as if it was kind of normal. Just my Achilles tendons hurt quite a bit in the bellies. But
I've
yeah,
heard before, like Elsa Jaworski, she did the Tahoe 200, and she said she surprisingly felt better after her 200 than she ever did after her 100s, and she thinks that's because she was pushing in such a different manner. Do you agree?
exactly. I agree. Yeah, you don't really, well, you shouldn't, you shouldn't really push in the 200 distance like you do in the 100. Obviously, go do a 5K. You feel it. Like
Yeah.
sore. Now do a 50K. Obviously, you slow your pace down to accommodate the distance that you're running. And I think the 200, the fact that you're not putting any impetus on racing, I don't think you should be racing the 200 distance. You should be enjoying the journey. Obviously, there's people that are going to race it, and that's why times are as low as they are for some of them. I mean, I ran 70 37 or 70 47. I can't remember exactly. But I had down on my little cheat sheet, which I was hitting everything to the halfway point, that I was going to run 61 hours, 61. Yeah, 61:40 was my time to finish.
Mm.
And I feel like that race course is doable in that. So I'm saying I I was 10 hours slower than that race could be run. Race. That run could be raced.
So, did you learn anything about yourself as a runner or even as a person during this race?
Yes. So um I learned that the body, not just the mind, but the body is super resilient and able to adapt. It's crazy how much your body can adapt to what's happening currently,
Mm,
as long as you don't let your mind go and say, I need to drop. But your body is super resilient. It's crazy to me that my Achilles tendon hurts so much at mile 140 something, and I ran another 100 miles on that Achilles tendon, and it responded super well as soon as I started to run hard. So yeah, the body's super resilient and adaptable, and even the pulmonary edema that I had, um, I was able to cough most of it out to get to get the oxygen that I needed. But even still, there's things you can do. Go sleep. Even the little bit of sleep helped me recover. That little bit of sleep helped me recover enough to keep going. But obviously, the mental game is always has to be there. You have to have the strong mental capacity to be able to um, get through get through the events. So, but I've always had pretty good mental toughness, I guess you could say. But I was really surprised at how resilient my body could be even after being so, for the lack of the terms, it was broke down. I thought I had to drop a couple times, and nope, you don't have to drop. I mean,
Amazing.
people do have to, but and they have their own reasons, and it's definitely needed sometimes. I've dropped out of races plenty.
Mm, amazing. Final question. So, what do you have in mind for next year, maybe? Are you going to come back and see if you can hit that 61, or have you kind of got some more ideas in mind of where you want to go with racing?
So I haven't done the Tahoe 200 for the destination trails. So it'd be nice to be able to have done each one of those. But I really enjoyed Moab so much that um, I know Jeff Browning wants to do it next year to try to take the time down, the record down. And I think it would be, I haven't decided that I'm going to do it yet. As a matter of fact, during the race, I decided I was retiring.
Wow.
I'm done with these races. This is too hard. Uh, but obviously, you get done with the race and things change. Just
Mm.
like get done with a race and you're like, I'm never doing another one of these. And 2 days later, you're on Ultra Sign Up, finding out which race you're going to do. But so I'm going to put in for the lottery for Western States because I'd still like to do that one more time as a 50 plus to see if, because I think the record, the age group record for that is attainable still.
Mm.
I think it's in my wheelhouse to get that record. So I'm putting in for Western States for that. I'm putting in for Hard Rock. So those two, if I get in the lottery for those are on the horizon. But Tahoe is on my list to try. I might go for Moab. Um, but Tour de
Well,
Jean,
you may as well do Bigfoot then you'll get the Triple Crown.
yeah, I'm gonna do Tahoe and I'm gonna do Moab. You never know. I might. The 200-mile distance is so crazy. There's so much that can change, and there's so much you can learn. It's crazy what goes on out there on the trail. And obviously, I learned that you do need to um, sleep early on, and maybe everything can go quite a bit better for you. So on the horizon, I haven't really put what I'm going to do next year out in my mindset yet, but I'll be doing some stuff.
Awesome. Well, I'll definitely be looking out for you. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me. I've really, really enjoyed talking to you. It's been great fun.
All right, sweet. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.